Rust Row was the graveyard of forgotten dreams. Here, broken ships were left to die, metal bones stacked on top of each other, engines half-eaten by acid rain, cockpits that once touched the stars now served as homes for rats. Rust Row didn't care who you were, a fighter pilot, cargo hauler, smuggler, or war hero. Once your ship was junk, so were you. Cade Rel lived in one of those rusted-out ships that the Maggie R7 was once a fine medulla long-range courier, with jump capabilities and a sleek silver frame. That was 10 years ago now. The Maggie looked more like a floating trash bin. Her hull was peeled open on the left wing, her engine coughed instead of humming, her AI core hadn't spoken in 7 years. And yet, Cade refused to leave her. Every morning he climbed out of the ship's bent hatch and walked down the scrap-lined lanes. The other pilots laughed when they saw him. "There goes the Junker King," one said, grinning. "Still waiting for that bucket to fly again, Cade. You should sell it for parts. Get yourself a real life." Cade didn't answer. He just kept walking. Oil stains marked his boots. His beard had gone gray too early. His hands were covered in scars and dried fuel. But his eyes still watched the sky like something waited for him. He worked small jobs, power coil repairs, panel welding, battery swaps, just enough to buy food and keep the Maggie powered for a few hours each night. Sometimes, he'd sit inside the dark cockpit, fingers on the dead controls, whispering to the ship like she was alive. "You still in there, girl?" he'd asked. "One more flight? Just one?" She never answered. Not until the knock. It came on a cold night. The sky over Rust Row was filled with black clouds. The other pilots had gone inside their warm caverns. Cade was in the Maggie's cockpit, staring at a broken screen, when someone knocked on the outer hull. 3 slow knocks, then silence. Cade stood up fast. No one ever came to his ship. There was no reason. He grabbed a small plasma torch and made his way through the dark corridor to the airlock. "Who's there?" he called out. No answer. He pressed the switch. The hatch opened with a painful creak. Cold air rushed in, but there was no one outside. He stepped down the small ladder, boots landing in a puddle. Rust Row was quiet, as always. He turned left, then right. Nothing, only twisted metal and silence. But when he turned back to the ship, something was there. A small disc, about the size of his hand, sat at the base of the ladder. It glowed faint blue and hummed like a soft engine. Cade bent down and picked it up. It was warm, too warm for something lying in the cold rain. He turned it over. No label, no switch, no ports, just smooth silver with strange lines running across it, like a maze. He took it inside. The moment he crossed the airlock, the Maggie's lights flickered. He froze. The cockpit lights came on. Screens blinked. The console beeped once, then twice, and then the engine room rumbled. Cade ran through the hall, heart racing. The Maggie hadn't made that sound in years. When he reached the back of the ship, he stopped cold. The engine was glowing. Not all of it, just one section. The old fusion core, which hadn't worked since the reactor breach, now pulsed with blue light, just like the disc in his hand. Cade placed the disc on the engine panel. The lights grew stronger. New interface appeared, words he didn't understand, symbols moving fast across the screen, and then a voice. "Power, systems online, engine stabilizing, AI core standby." "Hello, Cade." His mouth opened, but no sound came. The Maggie hadn't spoken in 7 years. "You have activated a time-locked trigger," the voice continued. "Temporal synchronization and progress." "What does that mean?" he whispered. "What did I activate?" There was a sharp click. The screen now showed a countdown. 0 hours for minutes and 59 seconds, 0 hours for minutes and 58 seconds, 0 hours for minutes and 57 seconds. Cade backed away. "Is that a bomb?" The ship didn't answer. The countdown kept going. 5 minutes later, nothing exploded. Instead, something changed. The ship shifted. It was hard to explain. The air felt heavier. The lights dimmed, then adjusted to perfect brightness. The AI core stopped speaking, but something was watching, listening. And outside the ship, the world looked wrong. Cade stepped outside again. The clouds had frozen in the sky. Literally frozen, motionless. A drop of rain hung in midair, not falling. No wind, no sound. Time had stopped. "Hello, Cade Rel," a voice said behind him. He spun around. Woman stood in the airlock doorway, tall, wearing a smooth black coat that shimmered like oil. Her eyes glowed faint silver. Her face looked human, but not fully. Her skin had no pores. Her voice was clear, but echoing, like 2 versions spoke at once. "Who are you?" Cade asked. She stepped closer, hands behind her back. "I am A visitor. I come from a timeline that no longer exists. Cade blinked. What does that mean? It means I was erased. But this ship, this place, it brought me back. He stared at her. You put the disc on my ship. She nodded. That's how the engine started again. Yes, why? Because this ship is not what you think it is, and neither are you. Cade laughed. Lady, it's a flying trash can. I'm just a broken down pilot. There's nothing special about me. She looked at him carefully. You are a fixed point in the timeline, Cade Rel. In one future, you die poor and forgotten. In another, you save what's left of reality. He swallowed. Save what? Time itself. The clouds in the sky suddenly began moving again, slowly at first, then faster. The woman looked up, her expression darkening. They've noticed. I can't stay. Who noticed? The keepers. Guardians of the main timeline. They will come. They always come. Cade stepped forward. Wait, you can't just say that and disappear. What do I do? She looked into his eyes, her voice quiet now. Fix the ship. Trust no one. If the engine speaks again, do not shut it down. And when you see the second sun rise, before he could ask more, the woman vanished. Not like teleportation. She shimmered like a reflection on water, then folded inward, and was gone. Hours passed. Cade sat in the cockpit, staring at the silent countdown screen. It had vanished after reaching 0. The engine still hummed softly. Everything else felt normal again. Outside, pilots returned to their routines. Rustro laughed, shouted, and ignored him as always, but something had changed. The Magyar 7 wasn't dead anymore. Something lived inside it, and someone had come through time itself to knock on his door. Cade didn't know what came next, but for the first time in years, he smiled. Maybe this junker still had one flight left. Maybe the sky wasn't done with him yet. 3 days passed since the knock on Cade's ship. The Magyar 7 was alive again, not fully but enough to keep him up at night. The engine hummed like it remembered flight. The AI stayed silent, but the ship's lights turned on when Cade entered. A room, it was like she sensed him now, responded. He kept the glowing disc hidden under the pilot's seat. He didn't tell anyone. Who would believe him? Rustro moved on like always. Pilots came and went. Scavengers argued over scrap. Children played between rusted holes, and Cade watched the sky, waiting for her to come back. The woman from the future. But she didn't, someone else came instead. It started with the cold, not the kind from space or bad wiring. This cold crawled under your skin, made your teeth ache and your breath stick in your throat. Cade was walking back from the junk market. He had bought a second-hand circuit relay, one that should have cost 50 credits, but the vendor gave it to him for 2. Said something about wrong frequency. Cade didn't care. A good pilot made do with what he had. But as he passed Sector 3, the wind stopped. Literally stopped. A torn tarp hung in the air like it was frozen mid-flip. People stood still, every single one like statues. A hovercart floated above the ground, unmoving. A man mid-step stood on one leg, eyes wide in shock. Time had paused again, and Cade felt it before he saw him. Someone was watching him. He turned slowly. A man stood at the corner of the rusted street. Tall, broad shoulders. Black coat like a military officer, but it shimmered with shifting colors, like starlight trapped in cloth. His eyes, silver gray, cold and calculating. His face looked young but carried something old behind the expression. The man stepped forward, time still frozen around him. You're Cade Rel, he said. Cade didn't move. And you are? The man didn't smile. I'm not from your calendar. Not even your century. Cade's hand went to his belt, ready to pull the torch. No need for weapons, the man said. If I wanted you dead, you'd be gone already. What do you want? To talk. I was sent to find you. Cade's eyes narrowed. By who? The man stepped closer. By you. Cade frowned. That's impossible. The man tilted his head. Is it you activated a locked artifact? You restarted a dead engine. You're not just some broken pilot anymore. Cade didn't like how calm the man sounded. Tell me your name, Vaughn. Just Vaughn. In your language. Yes, Cade looked around. The street was still frozen. Did you do this? No, Warren said. The ship did. It's protecting you now, but that protection won't last forever. Cade's heart beat faster. You know about the Maggie. I know everything about it. And more importantly, I know what's inside it. Cade blinked. It's just an engine, old tech. Vaughn stepped closer. It's a time anchor, a prototype from a future war. It was lost during a retreat backflung through a temporal rift and hidden here. On this ship, centuries before it was even built. Cade stared at him. You're saying someone from the future hid time tech in my engine? Yes, and you were sent to get it back. No, Vaughn said. I was sent to make sure it ends up where it needs to go. Where's that? Vaughn's face darkened. Anywhere but in the hands of the guild. Cade paused. The woman who came, she said something about the keepers, same group. Vaughn nodded. The Clockmakers Guild. They control time, or try to. They believe in one timeline, one history. They erase everything else. Mistakes, divergences, people. Cade felt a chill. She said they would come. They will, Vaughn said. They already are. That disk you activated, it sent a pulse. Across time they felt it. So what do we do? Vaughn looked up at the sky. We hide, we prepare, and we flee soon. Cade half laughed. Fly. That ship hasn't left orbit. In years, Vaughn smiled for the first time. It will. You just don't remember how yet. Before Cade could answer, time snapped back. The wind blew. The hovercart dropped. People shouted and moved again, unaware they had just frozen in place. Only Cade remembered. Only he saw Vaughn slip into the shadows. Back on the Magyar 7, Cade opened the engine bay. The core glowed stronger now. Blue patterns flowed over its surface, like it was breathing. He installed the relay and powered the main console. The AI came online. Welcome back, Pilot Rel. The voice was smoother now, confident. Synchronization, 72%. Activation of timeframe navigational systems detected. External interference, minimal. Internal threat levels, increasing. Cade leaned in. What internal threat? The console displayed something new. A series of images, distorted figures in red coats. Ships shaped like pendulums, timelines crossing and breaking like shattered glass. Invasion through the time web has begun. Protective measures advised. Pilot authorization required to initiate. Shift lock jump. Cade stared. What the hell is a shift lock jump? No answer. Then came another knock on the airlock. Cade froze. He walked to the hatch and opened it slowly. Vaughn stood there again. You need to leave tonight, Vaughn said. Cade crossed his arms. And go where? Anywhere, as far from this timeline's center as possible. Cade frowned. What's the center? Vaughn's eyes narrowed. Earth. Cade's heart dropped. Wait, are you saying they're going after Earth? They've already started. Erasure teams are targeting critical points in time. They plan to rewrite humanity's rise before it ever happens. Cade shook his head. Why? Because your species breaks the timeline. You invent things too early. Survive wars you shouldn't. You're unpredictable. And you built the one weapon they couldn't control. He nodded toward the ship's core. This ship. Cade looked at the glowing engine. Then back at Vaughn. I'm no hero, he said. Vaughn stepped inside. You don't need to be a hero, you just need to fly. That night, Cade sat in the pilot seat. His hands shook slightly as he touched the controls. The Magyar 7 was still, dented, scratched, ugly, but she responded. Slowly, as if remembering what it was like to move, Cade ran diagnostics. Half the systems failed. Oxygen filters flickered. The comms were fried. But the engine, it was green. Vaughn sat in the co-pilot chair. Don't think, he said. Just go. Cade hesitated. Looked at the stars through the cracked glass of the cockpit. Then he pressed the ignition dot. The Magyar roared. The entire ship shook. Lights blinked. Rust fell from the ceiling, but they lifted slowly off the ground. The other pilots looked up in shock. Kids pointed and cheered. One old mechanic dropped his spanner. The Junker was flying. The engines flared. The rear thrusters lit the sky. The Magyar 7 punched through the clouds and broke orbit. Cade laughed like a man reborn. We're in the black, he said. Vaughn looked ahead. Now comes the hard part, he whispered. Cade looked at him. What's that? Surviving what comes next. The Magyar 7 was finally back in space. Old, loud, and crooked but flying. Cade sat in the pilot's seat, gripping the controls like a man holding onto a dream. The stars blurred past them, lines of silver against the black. Vaughn sat beside him, eyes scanning the deep. The ship's ancient sensors twitched and glittered. Every few seconds, they picked up strange echoes like ghosts whispering through space. We're being followed, Vaughn said calmly. By who? Cade asked. Vaughn's expression didn't change. Not who. What? The ship jolted slightly. Cade frowned and tapped the dashboard. Easy, girl, he whispered to the Maggie. But something was wrong. The engine core was pulsing too fast. The blue glow inside it had turned slightly red. The hum had changed from a smooth rhythm to a high-pitched whine, like something trapped inside was screaming. Cade tapped the panel. Diagnostics. Engine status. The AI voice responded. Slower than before. Primary engine core. Stable. Secondary energy reading. Unknown. Warning. Foreign presence detected in temporal drive. Cade sat up straighter. What presence? Non-registered consciousness. Inside the core. Vaughn stood suddenly. They found us, he said. Before Cade could speak, the lights inside the ship dimmed. The temperature dropped. A soft knocking echoed from inside the ship, not from the door, from inside the walls. Tell me that's not normal, Cade said. Vaughn didn't answer. Instead, he walked toward the engine room, his hand glowing faint blue. He wasn't carrying any tools, but his palm lit up with shifting symbols, like a circuit tattoo alive under his skin. Cade followed, plasma torch in hand. The hallway to the engine was darker than before. The lights flickered, one by one, as if the ship was losing power. No, not losing power. Something was draining it. They reached the engine bay, and stopped. The core was spinning too fast. Blue streaks twisted through red ones. A shadow moved. Inside it just for a second, it looked like a shape, like something curled up, watching them. What is that? Cade whispered. Vaughn's voice was low. A time remnant. Cade blinked. That sounds bad. It is very bad. Vaughn stepped forward and placed his hand on the core's surface. The symbols on his skin glowed brighter. The engine calmed slightly, but not for long. A deep thump echoed from inside. Boom, 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 like a fist hitting the wall from the other side of time. Cade looked at Vaughn. How do we get it out? We can't, Vaughn said. Not safely. What happens if it gets out on its own? Warren turned to him. Then it takes the ship, and time bends around us until we disappear. Erased, like we never existed. The core flared again. A long crack formed along the inner energy barrier. Suddenly the AI spoke fast and panicked. Containment breach. Unknown entity has accessed memory core. Rewriting sequences. Backup collapsing. Then the voice changed. A second voice came through. Not the ship, not human. It sounded like a child, twisted, echoing, and glitching. Hello, day. Cade stepped back. It knows my name. It came from the disk, Vaughn said. Some timelines leave shadows, memories that shouldn't exist. That disk carried more than activation keys. The voice laughed. She brought me, the future woman. She touched the wrong door. Cade's eyes widened. She didn't know, no, Vaughn said. But now you do. Suddenly, a panel near the engine popped open on its own. Wires spilled out. Sparks flew. A gust of freezing air burst from inside the engine like a scream from deep space. Then something stepped out. It looked almost human. Its body flickered like a bad signal every few seconds. It shifted shapes. Man, woman, child, machine, skeleton, back to human. Over and over, its eyes were dark holes, leaking black smoke. Its fingers were too long. Its feet hovered just above the floor. You broke the cage, it said. Cade raised his plasma torch. Stay back. The thing tilted its head. I am back. Then it rushed forward. Cade fired. The plasma bolt passed through the creature like it was fog. The creature didn't even flinch. It moved toward him, glitching in and out, faster than human eyes could track. But before it could touch him, Vaughn stepped in front. He raised both hands. The symbols on his arms exploded with light. A circle of pure energy pulsed outward and slammed into the creature. The thing screamed, not just loud, but across frequencies. The sound hit Cade's head like a spike of fire. He dropped to one knee, eyes watering. The creature stumbled back. Its body cracked. Pieces of its form shattered into shards of light, but it didn't vanish. It laughed again. You can't stop me, it whispered. He called me the one who sleeps in time. Vaughn's voice turned cold. There is no sleeper here, only death. Then he reached forward and touched the creature's chest. Everything flashed white. Cade woke up in the cockpit. The emergency lights were on. The ship was shaking. Warning messages filled every screen. Engine temperature falling. Temporal disturbance removed. AI core restoring. Warning. Internal damage 48%. Vaughn walked in slowly. His coat was burned, his face pale. He looked drained. Cade sat up. What happened? It's gone, Vaughn said. You destroyed it. No, Vaughn said. I pushed it out. Forced it back into the rift between time slices, but it's not gone, just watching. Cade stood. What the hell was that thing? Vaughn looked at him, tired. That was a memory that survived too long. It shouldn't exist, but now it knows you. Cade shook his head. Why me? Because you're not supposed to be here. Cade stared. I live on a scrap planet. Exactly, Vaughn said. You should have died on Rust Row. The guild erased your timeline, but the ship brought it back. Now the universe is confused. Cade sat back down. And that thing, it feeds on confusion, on cracks in time. And now it knows your name. Cade leaned his head back, eyes closed. Great, he muttered. I finally get to fly again. And the universe wants to delete me. Vaughn smiled faintly. Welcome to the fight. Later, Cade stood alone in the engine room. The core was quiet now, glowing soft blue. Calm, he placed his hand on it. Whatever's inside you, he whispered, you saved my life. But if you bring more things like that, we're going to have a problem. The ship didn't answer, but the lights blinked once, almost like a wink. The Magyar 7 floated in the dark, alone, silent, wounded. She had survived a time remnant. Barely. Her core was stabilizing, her AI slowly returning. But something had changed. Cade could feel it. The ship didn't just move through space anymore. It listened, like it was waiting for something. Or someone. Cade sat in the cockpit, staring at a blinking red light on the console. It had appeared after the fight with the remnant. Small, steady, blinking once every 3 seconds. He tapped the screen. New message received. Timestamp. Unknown source. Dead channel Freck. -987.3. Dead channel, he whispered. That frequency doesn't exist. Vaughn walked in behind him. His coat was torn, boots scorched from the last fight. But his eyes were sharp, alert. Play it, he said. Cade hesitated, then hit the button. The message crackled. To life. First, static, then a voice. Familiar. Cade, if you're hearing this, I failed. Cade's chest tightened. It was his voice. Older, deeper, tired. They erased the colony, the children, the sky farms, all of it. The guild arrived before I could warn them. I'm sorry. Cade looked at Vaughn. That's not me. I never said those words. You haven't yet, Vaughn replied. The message continued. They'll come. For you next. The ship remembers the real timeline. And so do you. That's why they'll try to erase you again. A pause, then softer. Tell her I didn't forget. That I waited by the ruins. She'll know what it means. The message ended. Cade sat back, face pale. That's me from another timeline. Vaughn nodded. A version of you that didn't survive. But how did the message get here? That timeline was erased. Vaughn looked at the engine core. Sometimes a soul fights back, even if the body is gone. Time is full of echoes. Cade stood, breathing hard. So there's more than one of me. There were, Vaughn said quietly. Now, there's just you. Later, Cade walked through the ship, haunted. The words repeated in his mind. Tell her I didn't forget. That I waited by the ruins. Who was her? And what ruins? He passed the engine bay. The core pulsed. For the first time it hummed a melody. Not just power but memory. A song, a whisper. The AI voice returned. Pilot. Timeline signature detected. External distress beacon matching erased reality. Cade froze. Where's Sector K-89? Planet Veltarin status. Dead time signature. 47 years removed from Prime Stream. Dead timeline, he muttered. But it's still sending. Signals, yes. Cade rushed to the cockpit. Vaughn followed. We have a location, Cade said, from a dead timeline. Vaughn frowned. Veltarin was erased 12 cycles ago. Nothing should remain. Then how is it calling me? Vaughn leaned forward. Set course. Let's find out. They arrived after 9 hours of drift jumping. Veltarin appeared like a ghost. A dusty blue world floating in an empty pocket of space. No satellites. No orbiters. Just silence. As they entered orbit, the ship picked up more signals. Dozens, then hundreds. Help us. They're not stars. They're ships. Please, someone answer. I remember fire. And silence. Cade's fingers trembled. On the console, it's like they're trapped in time. Or screaming through the cracks, Vaughn said. The ship's AI gave another warning. Caution, timeline decay in progress. Exposure beyond 17 minutes may result in memory bleed or identity corruption. Memory, what? Cade asked. Your mind may start to remember things from lives you never lived, Vaughn explained. Pain that never happened, love that isn't yours, regrets you never earned. Cade swallowed. And if I stay too long, you stop being you. Cade looked out the window. The ruins of a city floated beneath the clouds. Twisted towers, half-melted roads, a crashed starport, but then he saw it. A small hill on the edge of the ruins, a figure, standing, alone, in white, watching their ship. Cade pointed there. You see that? Vaughn narrowed his eyes. Impossible, no living being should be there. I'm going down. Vaughn grabbed his arm. You have 15 minutes. The planet's surface was like walking inside a broken mirror. Wind carried voices. Shadows twisted. Gravity flickered slightly, like reality wasn't sure how heavy things should be. Cade reached the hill. The figure turned slowly. It was a woman. Pale eyes, silver hair tied back. a coat stitched with old military markings. She was beautiful, but her face held centuries of sadness. You came, she said. You were expecting me, Cade asked. She nodded. In every version of this story, I wait here. Only one Cade ever reaches me. Who are you? She looked at him. Your future, your anchor, your reason. Cade felt dizzy. I don't understand. I was your partner, she said. We flew together, fought the guild. You died. In some timelines I died in others, but in this one, we didn't even meet yet. Cade's voice cracked. But I heard a message. From myself, he said, to tell you. He waited by the ruins. She closed her eyes. He always does. Suddenly, the wind screamed. Vaughn's voice came through the combs. Cade, get back now. The guilds breached the veil. Cade turned to run, but the woman grabbed his hand. Take this, she whispered. She pressed a small crystal into his palm. It holds a key, memories from the timelines they erased. Cade stared. How do I find you again? She smiled sadly. You already did, just not yet. The world around them shattered. Colors bled. Gravity twisted. The sky turned black. Vaughn's voice roared. Jump now. Back aboard the Maggie. Cade collapsed into the pilot's seat. The ship shook violently. The engine core glowed bright red, trying to force them out of the decaying timeline. Jump us. Cade shouted. The AI screamed. Temporal boundaries collapsing. Multiple versions of pilot detected. Clarify identity. Who are you? Cade stared at the screen. Dozens of names. All his. Cade Rel from timelines that shouldn't exist. He gritted his teeth. I'm the one that made it this far. The ship paused, then accepted him. The Maggie jumped. The world vanished. Silence. Then breath. Cade opened his eyes. They were far somewhere safe, somewhere quiet. Vaughn looked at him, impressed. You survived a dead timeline, and brought back a message. Cade opened his hand. The crystal glowed softly. He didn't know what memories were inside it, what secrets, what futures, but he knew one thing now. He wasn't just fixing a broken ship anymore. He was fixing a broken history, and someone out there, maybe many someones, were counting on him to succeed. The Maggie R7 drifted in the silence between systems. Cade had barely slept in days. His dreams were haunted by faces he never met, but somehow loved. Cities he'd never seen, but somehow lost. The crystal still pulsed quietly in his coat pocket. Every time he touched it, he felt memories that weren't his. Vaughn sat across from him, arms folded, staring at the cracked dashboard. They know you now, Vaughn said. The guild. Vaughn nodded. But not just them. Him. Cade frowned. Who? The clockmaker. The name chilled the air around them. Cade leaned forward. What is he? Not a man. Not anymore. A creature built from all the timelines the guild broke. He was the first victim and the last mistake. I thought the guild erased people. They did, Vaughn said, but he didn't stay gone. The lights dimmed. Something was near. A soft ticking sound echoed through the ship. Tick, tick, tick. Then the ship's AI began to repeat a strange message. Time fracture detected. Source. Chrono-class entity. Name. Clockmaker. Status. Approaching. Cade stood, torch in hand. How do we stop him? Vaughn looked at him grimly. You don't. You outrun him if you're lucky. They didn't get that chance. A bright flash exploded outside the ship. Not light and light. Like reality itself was torn open. The stars twisted, the ship groaned, and a figure stepped out of the void. He walked across the vacuum like it was a floor, hands behind his back, dressed in a long coat made of shifting clock gears, constantly moving. His face was pale, eyes solid gold, and floating just behind him a chain of broken watches, each ticking a different beat. The clockmaker had arrived. He looked at the Maggie, then he smiled, and time burned. Inside the ship, Cade fell to his knees. Everything inside the Maggie slowed, not physically, temporally. His thoughts dragged like syrup. Every sound became long and deep, like he was underwater. Except one thing moved. Normally Vaughn. Cade could barely speak. Why aren't you slowing? Vaughn's skin glowed faint blue again. I was built to resist him. Built. Vaughn touched his own chest. I was born human. I was remade during the timeline collapse. I'm what they call a temporal anchor. The ship groaned again. Metal cracked along the walls. Sparks burst. Vaughn grabbed Cade's arm. We have minutes, maybe less. Come on. They ran to the engine core. The crystal in Cade's pocket began to glow brighter than before. It pulsed fast, reacting to the clockmaker's presence. What does he want? Cade asked. Vaughn didn't look back. You why? Because you exist in too many timelines that were meant to end. You're a fracture, a ripple that won't die. And the crystal, it's the key to memories the guild lost. If he gets it, he can rewind everything until none of us were ever born. They reached the core chamber. The air inside was frozen, literally. Ice crawled along the walls. The engine spun slower than it should, like it too was being affected by the time drag. Then they heard the door creak open behind them. The clockmaker stepped in. He didn't speak at first. He simply looked at Cade and smiled. You shouldn't be here, he said softly. His voice echoed through time. Cade raised his torch. Neither should you. The clockmaker tilted his head. You were supposed to die in orbit above the moon wastes, crushed with the rest of your fleet, but somehow, you lived. That was mistake number 1. Glad I could ruin your day, Cade muttered. Mistake number 2, the clockmaker continued, was the woman from the future. She touched the wrong door, gave you too much, made you dangerous. He stepped forward. Each step echoed twice, once in the present, once in the past. And mistake number 3, he whispered. Cade held his breath. The clockmaker smiled wider. You met me. Suddenly, the room filled with ticking, hundreds of clocks, loud, fast, wrong. Cade fell again, clutching his head, but Vaughn stood tall. He stepped between them. I remember you, he said. You were the engineer who tried to fix time. You failed. The clockmaker's smile vanished. Was trying to save everyone, he hissed. And now you destroy everyone who reminds you of that failure, Vaughn said. Especially him. The clockmaker raised a hand. Time bent around his fingers like ribbon. You can't stop me. But before he could strike, Cade stood. He was holding the crystal, and it was screaming, not in sound but in light. Memories exploded from it. Beams shot into the air, showing glimpses of timelines the guild erased. A world where humans discovered FTL first. A colony where Cade led a rebellion. A future where Earth and the stars burned together, and the Magyar 7 saved the last survivors. The clockmaker staggered. His power trembled. These shouldn't exist, he whispered. They do, Cade shouted. You just buried them. The crystal pulsed once more and released a burst of raw memory energy. The clockmaker screamed. His gears caught fire. His chain of watches snapped, one by one. Time cracked behind him, his personal loop unraveling. This isn't over, he howled. And then he vanished, sucked back into the hole between timelines, leaving only ash and broken seconds. Silence. Cade dropped the crystal. It floated mid-air, spinning gently. Vaughn grabbed his shoulder. You just did what no one ever could, he said. I don't know how, Cade said honestly. The ship knew. The crystal knew. And maybe, part of you always knew too. Later, in the cockpit, Cade sat alone. He stared at the stars, at the broken time behind him, at the road ahead. The AI voice came back, steady and calm. Pilot recognized, core stabilized, threat removed. For now. Next path, hidden beacon coordinates. Classified access requires memory unlock. Cade touched the crystal again. It glowed softly, and he heard her voice. The woman, from the ruined timeline. Find me again, Cade, before the guild resets everything. You're the only one who remembers. He looked at the stars. Then let's go. He pushed the throttle. The Maggie roared, and vanished into the dark. The stars outside the Magyar 7 were calm now, but inside the ship, something was growing unseen and silent. Cade hadn't slept in 32 hours, not truly. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. The woman from the timeline that no longer existed. She had spoken to him through fire, through memory, through pain. But now, she was silent. The crystal still pulsed gently in his coat, but it had stopped responding to the ship. Its light was now reacting to something else. To him. Vaughn ran tests. The crystal emitted no radiation, no pulse, no sound, except when Cade touched it. Then it glowed like a sun behind frost. It vibrated, slightly, as if recognizing its owner. Vaughn ran scans on Cade's body, then his face changed. What is it? Cade asked. You're not fully human, Vaughn said. Cade blinked. Excuse me. Your DNA has non-linear markers, memory fragments encoded directly into your blood, like genetic memories. No, Vaughn said. Like future memories locked deep, waiting to be unlocked. Cade stared at his own hands. That's not possible. It wasn't, Vaughn said. Until the guild broke time. The AI confirmed it. Pilot DNA contains anomalous code. Marker class H delta, active when in proximity to crystal memory fragments. Warning. Opening may rewrite personality threads. Rewriting personality, Cade muttered, as in, I become someone else. Or everyone else you've ever been, Vaughn said. But why would I have this in the first place? Vaughn looked out the window. Because someone built you for more than survival. Someone expected you to remember what others forgot. That night, Cade locked himself in the med-bay. He took the crystal, placed it on the scanner. Then he injected a small sample of his own blood into the console. It mixed. Fused. Suddenly, the screen went dark. Then images: a woman screaming his name, a child running through snow, a fleet burning in orbit, a key, a star chart. Then words appeared across the screen. Do not trust the name Zarin. He walks in light, but serves the guild. He smiles, but behind it waits a knife. And if you're reading this, Cade, then you're the last one left. Cade leaned closer. Before the screen could answer, alarms blared. Incoming vessel detected. ID: Zarin class courier. Message: friendly. Code: Old Earth Protocol. Cade froze. That name. Zahrin. He ran to the bridge. Vaughn was already there. Friend or foe? Cade asked. Too early to tell, Vaughn replied. But he's asking to dock. What do we do? Vaughn loaded his weapon. We smile and keep the knife hidden. The courier ship docked with a soft clang. The airlock hissed. A man stepped aboard. He wore a clean brown coat, polished boots, no weapons visible, hair slicked back, eyes calm and kind. Cade Rel, he said with a warm smile. It's an honor. You know me? Cade asked. Of course, the man said. I'm Zarin. I was sent to help you. From the corner, Vaughn didn't speak, but his eyes didn't leave Zarin for even a second. They sat in the common room. Zarin laid out an old metal case. Inside, a data drive, food packs, and a memory slate showing Earth's solar system. You've drawn attention, Zarin said, sipping tea. Big attention. Clockmaker, guild agents, timeline ruptures. You're becoming quite the thorn. What do you want from me? Cade asked. Zarin leaned forward. I want to help you finish this. I know what the guild did. I know what they erased. I know the woman you saw on Valterine. Cade stiffened. Was my sister, Zarin said. The room went quiet. Cade stared at him. Your sister died in a dead timeline. Zarin's voice lowered. Which is why I want her back. He slid the data drive toward Cade. Inside is a map to the guild's memory vault, where they store the erased. Vaughn finally spoke. What's the price? Zarin smiled thinly. Trust. Cade didn't move, but his blood was roaring. Because deep inside him, the genetic code from the message screamed again. Do not trust. Hours later, Vaughn and Cade stood in the engine bay. Cade stared at the data drive. If that vault exists, he said, then maybe we can get back what they erased. Vaughn nodded slowly. But if he's lying, if he's one of them, he could be leading you straight into a trap. I know. What will you do? Cade slid the drive into the ship. The map loaded. A region of space blinked, marked as Vault Station Etherlock. He looked up. I'm going anyway. Later that night, Zarin stood alone in the cargo bay, thinking the ship was asleep. But the ship was listening, and so was Vaughn. Zarin pulled a small device from his coat. He whispered softly. Asset located. Upload complete. Cade, Rel believes. The vault is real. Continue protocol. Ensure he remembers only what we want him to. Vaughn watched from the shadows, face cold. He now had confirmation. Zarin was a liar. And the message in Cade's blood was right. Back in his room, Cade dreamt of a burning city, a woman crying, and a future where he stood alone on a battlefield of glass holding the crystal in one hand, and Zarin's body in the other. The stars watched in silence, and a clock ticked louder and louder. The map Zarin gave them led to a dead zone, Sector 1 for X, where no star systems should exist. It was a blank space on every chart. Ships that entered never returned, but now the Magyar 7 floated there, facing what looked like a black void, until the void blinked. Behind it, hidden by cloaked frequencies and bent light, was a massive structure, a sphere the size of a small moon, built from metal that shimmered like liquid memory. Cade stared through the viewport. That's it. Vaughn nodded. The vault. Zarin stepped forward. More than a vault, a prison, a graveyard, a god. Cade turned to him. You've been here before. Zarin's eyes didn't move. No, but I remember it. In my dreams. They approached slowly. The vault had no visible entrance, no doors, no hangars. But when the Magyar reached a certain distance, the ship stopped on its own, frozen in time. The AI spoke. Temporal lock detected. Access requires blood key. Cade blinked. What does that mean? Vaughn looked at him. It wants you. Without thinking, Cade stepped forward. A small needle extended from the console. He pressed his thumb. The ship took a drop of blood, and the vault reacted instantly. The outer shell cracked open, layer by layer, like the petals of a steel flower. A single path appeared, glowing white. Letting us in, Zarin said. But why? Cade asked. No one answered. Inside, the Magyar docked quietly in a vast chamber. There were no guards, no alarms, just silence. And thousands of glowing pods, each floating in the air. each holding a person frozen in stasis. They're not dead, Cade whispered. They're paused. Vaughn scanned one, timeline locked. These are erased people. Ones the guild removed from history but didn't kill. Cade stared. Why would they keep them? To extract memories, information, secrets from futures that no longer exist. They walked deeper. Zarin grew quiet. His eyes flicked left and right, studying everything. Cade didn't trust him, not fully, but he needed answers, and this vault was full of them. In the heart of the facility, they found the control spire floating above it, a pulsing memory crystal the size of a human heart. Not one, but many, fused together. The AI spoke again. Welcome, Subject Cade. You are the last surviving Kibera. Would you like to recover erased memory threads? Cade looked at VORN. VORN nodded. This might show you the truth. Cade placed his hand on the interface. Light surrounded him, and suddenly he wasn't on the ship anymore. He stood in a city of glass towers. He saw himself another version, leading people through fire. Children, old men, wounded soldiers. The guild attacked above. Their ships rained death. But this Cade fought back. He wore armor, held a weapon powered by crystal memory, a warrior of forgotten time. Then the city exploded, and everything went dark again. Another vision appeared, this time Cade and her, the woman from before. She held his face, crying. You must hide the crystal, she said. The guild will erase us, but if you live, we can return. Then the world shattered like glass. Cade fell to his knees. Back in the real world, the light faded. He gasped for air. That was real, he said. Vaughn helped him up. Pieces of timelines. You saw what the guild didn't want anyone to remember. Zarin stepped closer, and now you know why they fear you. Suddenly, alarms blared. Warning, external breach detected. Vaughn spun around. We've been followed. Cade stared at Zarin. Zarin didn't move. Cade growled. You led them here. Zarin finally looked at him. His kind face shifted just slightly. Cold, calculated. They were always coming, he said calmly. I just made sure they got here on time. You said you wanted to save your sister. I do, Zarin replied, but not like this. You were never meant to open the vault. You're too unstable. Guards in black armor entered from every direction. Guild units, armed, silent, laser rifles aimed. Vaughn pulled his weapon. Cade reached for the crystal. The vault, AI said. One more thing. Emergency protocol. Memory defense activated. Subject Cade. Will release full recall power. Cade looked at VORN. VORN gave a single nod. Do it. Cade closed his eyes. The crystal in his pocket melted into light, rose into the air, then exploded in a silent wave. The guild soldiers froze. Literally. Time around them stopped. Cade moved through them like statues. The vault responded. Pod after pod opened. People blinked, gasped, came back from the silence. Old scientists, warriors, diplomats, forgotten rebels. The erased were returning. Zarin screamed. You don't understand what you're doing. Cade turned to him. No, Zarin, you don't. And with a simple command, Cade locked Zarin in time, trapping him in a single second that would last forever. Outside, the guild's ships arrived, but the vault was changing now. It moved, unfolding like a machine waking up. Cannon arrays, shield domes, warp core ignited. It wasn't just a vault, it was a war station built to protect memory at all costs. Cade stood in the center, surrounded by freed souls. He turned to Vaughn. Ready? Vaughn smiled. Let's burn their lies. Cade raised a hand. The vault opened fire, and the war to restore the erased began. The vault floated in space, glowing like a sun of broken time. Cade stood at its command center. Around him, the erased were waking. Thousands of people pulled from dead timelines, their lives stolen by the guild, now restored. Ships circled outside. The guild fleet had arrived in full, but the vault was holding them back. For now, Cade's hands trembled. He wasn't afraid, he was remembering. Too much. The crystal inside him was no longer just glowing, it was talking, not with words but with memory. Every time Cade blinked, he saw pieces of other versions of himself fighting, dying, loving, hiding. One version stood in front of an earth that had turned into fire. Another led a rebellion inside a black hole. Another watched the stars vanish. And through it all, one face always returned at her, the woman from the future, the one who had first given him the crystal, and now he remembered her name. Alira. She was never Zarin's sister. She was his wife, his partner, his other half across timelines. AI, Cade said quietly. Why am I seeing all of this? You are the last remnant, the only timeline stable being left. Your DNA holds the master key. Vaughn stepped forward. How much do you remember? Cade looked at him, eyes wet. Everything. Vaughn nodded. Once. Then you know what comes next. The vault could not stay hidden, that it had been designed to store broken time, not fix it. To truly stop the guild, Cade had to do one thing: trigger the reset. The reset would send a temporal shockwave across the known galaxy. It would burn all altered timelines, restore one true thread. But to use it, Cade would have to bind his own memories into the new timeline, losing himself forever. He would live on, but not as him, not as Cade. Rel, he walked to the center console. All the erased were gathered now, watching him, silent, afraid. Why me? Cade asked the AI. Because you never stopped remembering. You carried everyone's pain. Even after the guild tried to erase you, you survived. Vaughn stepped up beside him. I'll stay with the ship, he said, but this part you have to do alone. Cade took a deep breath. He looked at the memory core. I want to speak to her, confirmed. Reconstructing a light rose around him. And then she was there. A projection, but alive in every way. She smiled, tears in her eyes. Cade. He fell to his knees. I remember now, he said. She knelt beside him. You were never supposed to, but you did. I can fix it, he whispered. I can bring the real timeline back. You'll lose everything, she warned. Even me. I already lost you once, he said. But I won't lose what we stood for. She leaned forward, whispered something only he could hear. Then do it. And no matter what you forget, just know, I loved you in every timeline. Then she was gone. Cade stood. The console glowed, ready to initiate galactic reset. He nodded once. Confirmed. Transferring memory core to Tamanka. Warning. Personality threads will dissolve. Identity loss. 99.97%. Proceed. He looked at Vaughn one last time. Tell them, Cade said. Tell them I wasn't just a junk pilot. Vaughn smiled, voice heavy. I'll tell them you were the last man the stars trusted. Cade pressed the button, and the light consumed him. What happened next? No one knows for sure. The guild fell across the galaxy. Lost cities returned, erased. People woke up in their homes, confused, but alive. The timelines merged, and Earth remembered who it really was, the birthplace of the remnants of Cade Reldo. No one remembered his name, except Vorn. Who flew the Magyar 7 across the stars, telling his story again and again. And somewhere, far away, a new man with Cade's eyes looked up at the stars. No memories, no past, but a strange, aching hope in his chest, like he'd once loved someone who saved the world, and maybe he'd do it again.